Hey, what's going on, guys? So, going to be kicking off another fun and simple kit bash project, so I just wanted to introduce it here for you guys, where the inspiration for this came from. Recently, a couple months ago, I guess, when I was building the HG Blazing Gundam, I was building it and I liked the design, but there were certain aspects that I liked and certain aspects that I didn't like, and I was thinking it would be really cool to basically just kit bash this with the original God Gundam, switching out the parts that I liked and didn't like from each kits and making kind of the best of both worlds kit with the two of them combined. And that's what we're going to be doing in today's kit bash video. With the Blazing Gundam being based off of the God Gundam, they're very compatible, the parts between the two. So it's basically just going to be a mix and match, but we will have to do some modification to get everything exactly how we want it. Let's go ahead and get into it. Here's what I have going so far. Everything on this kit is pretty compatible between the two kits, so I just basically swapped the arms because I want to have the arm gauntlets and the shoulders from the Burning Gundam. The torso, hip section, and legs and feet are all from the Blazing Gundam. For the ankle armor, I switched to the God Gundam. The head is kind of the same on the two kits depending on which version of the head you build with the Blazing Gundam, but this is the God Gundam's head and face, and then the V-fin from the Blazing Gundam. The only problem is this is going to be the first thing we're going to have to fix. Basically, if you guys can see that, there's a little bit of a gap where the red piece and the white piece don't line up perfectly. And so I just need to add a little piece of claw plate there, I think, to the back of this red piece, just a little bit, just to kind of fill that gap and then sand it to fit flushly in there. The other thing that I want to change is here on the side skirt, getting rid of these beam sabers and beam saber holders here, and that's also going to be pretty simple, I think. So basically what I'm going to do is separate these parts, and then for this circle part, there we go, I'm just going to cut this so it's just like a flat disc basically, and then just glue that onto there, so it'll still have the circle detail but it won't be raised with this kind of holster there for the beam saber handle. So there you have it. Once that's turned into just a flat disc and glued back on there, here's how that's going to look on the kit compared with the original. So just flat on this side and the original piece there. So I'll go ahead and copy that for the other side. That's pretty easy. Now the last part, which is going to be the most difficult but still not really all that difficult, last bit of kit bash modification that we're really going to make with this is just going to be the backpack. So here's the Blazing Gundam backpack, which just fits onto the back of the torso like that. So go ahead and remove the center part of the God Gundam's backpack, and then also inverted the kind of wing sections here. Normally they're pointing down, but I want to have them pointing up. And what I think will be cool is basically using the center part of the Blazing Gundam and just cutting off these parts on the side, and with this part of the God Gundam, just cutting out the center part and having these side parts, and then just gluing these whole side sections onto the center piece of the Blazing Gundam. I think that'll work out pretty well. And again, it shouldn't be all that difficult because basically we just need to cut these off, make sure that we got the sides of this, you know, sanded, filed flat, and then this is flat. And so once these middle parts are removed, that's just going to be a simple, just glue it straight onto there. So pretty easy. Alright, after a little just cutting and filing, there's our two halves of the backpack from the God Gundam and our centerpiece from the Blazing Gundam. So later on, these will just be attached onto here. So I can either just glue that, but now I'm almost thinking that where there was that bar between the center of these two halves, I almost maybe could have left that, but I don't know if the width would have been exactly right. But I could always add that back in, basically connecting the two halves of the God Gundam backpack with a rod in between them. And I could just use a piece of runner for that, and just actually that would just go straight through the backpack right here. And now obviously that would move up and down on there, which I wouldn't want, so I'd have to secure it in place. But just to make sure that they're straight, what I could do is just put a rod in between here where those holes are, and then I know that when I'm gluing them on, I don't accidentally have them like one a little bit on higher than the other or something like that. But anyway, there's one last thing that I need to fix before I go ahead and attach these onto there, and that is, of course, this hollow gap section right here. Now what I'm going to do with that is basically just fill that with some epoxy putty, so that's not really a big deal. There's not any like details on that. I just want to match it with the opposite side, when the opposite side is just flat. So just fill that with some epoxy putty, give that some time to set, sand, file that down so that that's flat on both sides. And then from then on, just go ahead and put our backpack together, and then it'll be ready for paint. So that's really about it. Don't have too much else planned for the modifications on this one. There's a little bit of a seam line here on the shoulder that I need to just go ahead and get rid of that, and then also on the head, so just a little bit of simple seam line removal there. For the shoulder, it doesn't matter because these pieces can be glued together. Before we wrap up this video, one last thing is its new weapon. So I'm just going to give it this spear weapon here from the Gya Eastern Weapons set. Now this one also has a couple holes. I'm going to go ahead and fill those with epoxy putty at the same time. Those as well, just fill those and sand that down. The problem is the holding hands for this kit are square in shape and this is round. So I'm going to have to make the inside of the hand round so that it can hold the spear correctly. Okay guys, so coming back the next day, I've got everything just about ready. So got both the side skirts all put together there. Gone ahead and also taken off all the stickers that were on here, got rid of that sticker residue. Also got rid of the seam line there on the shoulders. For the backpack here, let me show you guys what I did with that. So once everything is all cleaned up, and I also filled in these gaps there, so that's filled with epoxy putty and then just sanded down. And then I went ahead and re-added the bar here in between so that basically this will fit on there. And I was worried about this moving up and down. I'm actually not too worried about that. Number one is just because this is a pretty tight fit, so I don't think it's going to move. And number two, it's like a couple of millimeters of up and down movement that I may actually want. So maybe I wanted it a little bit higher or a little bit lower. I think probably a little bit lower is where I'm going to want that. This fin over here is a little bit loose. Need to tighten that up during painting. But that's all set there for the backpacks, so that's fine. I can then still, without that being permanently glued or fixed, I can then still adjust the angle of that as well. So if I wanted to have this opened up, so say maybe when I open it up I want to have this up a little bit higher, I can go ahead and do that, and so it'll look like that, something like that when it's opened up. I'm happy with that. Also went ahead and finished up filling in the gaps here in the weapon. Pop that back on there, so those are filled in, so we don't need to worry about the hollow gaps. With that, this is now a little bit loose on there too. I'll have to go ahead and glue that. Last thing then is just the head, so I went ahead and got rid of the seam line on the side of that as well. And what I did with the V-fin is take a little bit of plot plate, a couple pieces of 0.5 just stacked, so it's actually 3 stacks, so making 1.5 millimeters, added onto the back, and then a little bit added onto the front up underneath there to fill that gap. So then once this is plugged in here, it's actually sticking out a little bit more. I wanted to kind of emphasize the V-fin a little bit. Rather than, my plan was before to just kind of have this so that it fits in there flushly, but I wanted to have it sticking out. The God Gundam, I've always liked how it had a kind of quite prominent, like sticking out V-fin, and so this one I think will be pretty good like that. So it's pretty flush fit. I need to do maybe a little bit more cleanup work on that just to make sure that that's all fitting good and well. But the problem is now that the seam line is removed, the faceplate part won't fit in there, but it's a pretty easy fix on this one. So basically you have this part that's supposed to fit inside of there. What we can do is just cut off the back part of this, the tag. It's really easily just snip that off like so. So I can paint this separately, and that way I can paint the eyes really carefully, and then when it's all done, it'll just slide back up inside there. But I'm not going to do that quite yet because I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be hard to get back out once it's up in there. So once it's all painted, I can just slide the faceplate up through the gap there, and I will have to cut that a little bit just to make sure that this part is kind of out of the way for that to slide up in there, but that'll fit back up into there just fine. So there you have it guys, here's a look at how it's ultimately going to look. Obviously now I just need to get into the painting. I'm actually not totally decided on how I want to paint this yet, so I'm going to go ahead and just work on getting all the rest of the parts all cleaned up. There's still a bunch of sanding that I need to do, getting everything all broken down and sanding mold lines and stuff like that. And then get some primer on there, and in the meantime that'll give me some time to think about what I want to do for the color scheme on this. So I'll think about that. In the next video we'll go through just quickly the painting, and I'll show you guys what the final result is going to look like. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think about the look of this so far? I'm actually really happy with how this is coming together. It's a pretty simple little project but quite satisfying, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think about it, so let me know down in the comments. Of course, if you guys want to check out some kits for yourself, the link to USA Gundam Store will be down in the video description as always for you guys to check out some different HG kits and tools and supplies and paints and all that good stuff. But thank you all so much for checking out the video today. If you'd like to like and subscribe, make sure you see upcoming content. That'd be greatly appreciated. But until next time, I hope you're all having a great day. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.